Previously on Balls.
Hello, Dan.
Hey, Dan, it's Darren and the Balls team. How are you doing, sir?
Yes. Hi, Darren. Long time no speak.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. Nice to catch up with you and getting some golf in now. Is this your month where you get on the golf course and just chill?
Oh, yes. Well, I try to play as much as I possibly can. And then that sort of does bad things to my handicap, and then I suffer for the whole of the next year.
What is a bad thing, when it comes down or goes up, Dan? Down.
No, it goes up because you need... it comes down, because you know what happens. You just end up paying bets all the time, because everybody plays off higher,
Yeah.
What are you off now, Dan?
I'm an 8.
Wow,
an 8.
awesome.
Nice
Okay.
and handy.
No, which is quite bad. Can I reveal a little secret? That is the highest handicap that I've been. I'm now 61, so that's the highest I've been since I was a 14-year-old boy in Kimberley.
Are you 61? Yeah. I would never have said.
Yeah, well, you thought at least 72, didn't you?
73, 74, yeah. No, you're really in your 60s. I thought you were maybe early 50s.
No, got to 60 already, yeah.
Oh,
20s.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. Well, you're in good shape for a 61-year-old, Dan, let me say that much.
Well, you haven't seen me recently.
That's true. That's true.
I saw you in Woolworths, Dan, and you're looking great.
There we go.
There we go.
Listen, I've never been more relieved that a rugby season's over than I have this year.
Yeah, Darren, I have to agree with you. I didn't enjoy the season. Whenever you get into discussing a season like this one, I have to hasten to add that I'm not a Heineke Meyer knocker, because, in fact, when he was appointed, I was in favour of that appointment. I thought that was the appointment we needed. I thought after the sort of helter-skelter years of Peter de Villiers, in which we did no development, and we just stuck with an older team, we needed to have a big year and a new start in Springbok rugby, and I thought he was the man. Unfortunately, I think circumstances caught up with him, the biggest one being the injury situation. I mean, where the Spring national coach, to play 12 test matches, has to call up 52 players. I mean, what does that tell you? That there is a crisis no matter what SA Rugby says.
Like Rudolph Stroili's back?
Yeah. I think Rob Lowe's gone for a run on the beach. but Heineke doesn't like picture flags. So there are those outside influences. But the disappointment, I think, comes from the fact that he's shown himself to be quite conservative, more conservative than I thought he was. But one must probably give him the benefit of the doubt that when you're faced with the kind of situation that he was, that you have the Super Rugby, you have the team for a week, you play England in a series, you come out of England, they go back into Super Rugby, you get the team for a week, you play the Rugby Championship, some of them have to go back to Currie Cup, you get the team, they're all cropped, they're about to be injured or nearly injured or right out of the team, so he has no choice, maybe back to Stonewall and go back to that solid kind of rugby where you play a game that you don't have any danger of losing. And I think what that points to is, of course, that South African psyche. We may not lose, so that the Springbok team may not lose. I remember Rian Oberholzer once saying to me, you know what, when the Springbok team wins, there's nothing wrong with South African rugby. It doesn't matter how they win, what they do, how they play, as long as they win.
Yeah.
And there was an example of that England test match. England missed at least 3 kickable penalties, and we got an absolutely freakish try. I mean, the most unusual try that I've seen in more than 40 years of covering rugby, and then we beat England. Yet we behaved as though we'd given them a club. You've got test matches have to be won, but overall the impression is disappointment.
There was a time in our rugby, maybe in the last 10, 15 years, can't pinpoint exactly when, but there was a time in our rugby when we would have taken a year like this and been happy about the fact that, as you say, we've got away with ugly wins and stuff like that. But this is not the time for it now. I think people are expecting something more, something different, some progress, some moving forward, particularly probably where New Zealand have gone to. And that might be the key thing. It might not necessarily be that we've become spoiled as Springbok supporters, despite 2007, but I think New Zealand have set the bar now, and winning like we are isn't good enough anymore.
Absolutely, and I think on 2 levels, Heineke missed a very big chance. I think this year there might have been some forgiveness. If he'd gone for a new side, a new way of playing, a little bit more excitement and more pace, I would love the world to say, let's play like the Springboks do. Yeah. Instead, they say, let's play like the All Blacks do, and I'm not an All Black hero worshipper. I must tell you that I don't think this All Black side is that good.
Yeah.
They certainly, to me, not what everybody's calling them the best side ever. They're nowhere near But that said, they are the team that is they're setting the example, that's setting the pace, and that has raised the bar to a level of how you must play. And I think they are the team that have adapted to the way the laws have changed. And the IRB has set it out there. We're making this game faster. You mayn't not hold the ball. You mayn't kick the ball off a steady platform. We want the ball to be quick. And that's where the count to 5 rule's coming from. That's why they're pushing people back on sides, and they're looking at it again. I'll give you a little stat that I looked up I was unable to use. In our 12 tests, the Springboks this year, 22 tries. That's not a tremendous record.
No.
1.8 tries a test match. The All Blacks in 14 tests, 50 tries.
Wow.
And there that gives them an average of edging towards 4 tries a test match.
Yeah.
So and they play the same opponents as we do. So when one talks about the All Blacks, and I'm sure it happens to you. You get this sort of, you bloody Kiwi lover, It's just such rubbish. It's not about that. It's about setting a standard and about wanting to be better than we are. And that's why I say that maybe Heineke has missed a chance to really go with something new, to bring in an exciting brand of play, to bring in more youngsters than he has. And people might have said, we have to do this, because after the Peter de Villiers years, when we stuck with John and Victor, and we had to because they were in charge and they're the golden era,
Yeah.
And now he's missed a chance, because now into the next year, people are not going to be prepared to say, well, we're building, because, that year has gone by. So he might next year even harder than he found this year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing which he could have pointed at, and which he will have back next year, is a plethora of some of those big names. He's still got a lot of rugby left in them, and that being people like Bismarck, Heinrich Brousseau. They're all on their way back. I think it's about 12. Quality players that he can add to the mix that he's got now. But as you say, you're wanting to add those guys to the mix and then have some kind of a formula of rugby or of game that they can slot into comfortably, and that everyone can go, wow, we can't wait for the season. But it's that formula that doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah, no, and Scott Berger, will he come back?
Yeah.
Or will it be interesting to see? Johan Smith is still out there. So there are a lot of players, outstanding players, and we do have so much depth. When I say we could have had more youngsters, they could point out that Johan Goosen did get his chance, maybe too soon because he was crocked straight away. But what about those young centres, Jan Serpentine and Paul Jordan?
Yeah.
And then the other big fear that I have is that we did nothing about our backline play. As early as March in the Super Rugby, I thought there's something very wrong with South Africa's backline play. I called for a symposium, a boss parade. Let's sit down and see why we don't score tries anymore. And we don't. And one of the reasons is that our mindset is not to use the backline. And, attacking rugby is a mindset. It's an attitude. It's not something that you wave a wand and you have or you don't have. You've got to set out to be attacking, and I think we've got that wrong to a great extent, But there were some highlights. I mean, one really good thing was that Heineke stuck with Patrick Lambie on the overseas tour. When the Irish test didn't go so well, I thought, oh, that's it, he's going to go back to Mornay Steyn, pull the lager closed, and he didn't,
Yeah.
So all points there to him, because Patrick Lambie started settling in, and funny enough, I think he, of all the players, to me, his whole facial expression, his body language said he's uncomfortable in the new setup, because it was not what he was used to at the Sharks, where they try to run the ball, where they look for opportunities, and players are encouraged to have a dip.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that's where we need to go, and that's what the All Blacks have, So it's not a worship of the All Blacks. It's just that I believe we can be better than that, because we have the talent and we have the depth, and we should set out to do that.
Well, one of the things we're going to ask you before we wrap it up is your moment of the year. My moment of the year, funnily enough, was that, because then it became glaringly obvious to me what was going on, was exactly watching Pat Lambie in the opposition 22 kicking it up and under when we were on attack. That to me was the moment of the year, because that exactly answered the question that everyone's been asking, are they playing a certain kind of rugby only, and are they allowed to make decisions? Now, Pat Lambie's not a stupid rugby player. He's a very intelligent guy on the rugby field. We've seen it with the Sharks. And for him to do that, I mean, he would never do that in Sharks kit.
It's just not his natural instinct.
Exactly. That answered all the questions.
Yeah, there's another moment for me when we got a ball against Scotland, and we'd been under the gun for about 20 minutes, and we suddenly got a turnover ball, and Rohan Pinnock came away with the ball with what looked like a 4-man over. And the game was over. and there were 8 or 9 points to go, so we couldn't lose anymore.
Yeah.
And he kicked it away, and to me that said, well, there you are. That's what they programmed to do. No, for me the moment of the year was Brian O'Hana's try, which funny enough ended up being the try of the year. And there's an oddity in that try, because that try came off a line-out, and the line-out ball was won badly, so it didn't go to Ruan Pienaar. It actually bobbled to Flo Low, and guess what happened? He gave it straight to Brian O'Hana coming from the blind side, and Brian worked his magic and scored a try. So you have to ask, because it didn't go through the usual channel.
Yeah.
The scrum half who first thinks to kick, who then gives it to the fly half who thinks to kick. It came off an accident, and maybe that says more about what you and I are talking about, that the accidental quick ball to a really quick back led to the try of the season.
I'd like to ask Dan to gaze into his crystal ball and give us some predictions for 2013.
Sure.
Not only results, but what do you think is going to happen with Heineke and the Bok team, players coming back? How do you think 2013 is going to unfold for South African rugby?
Yeah, look, I think he hasn't got to where the position he has by being a fool, So I'm sure deep down he understands that we can't carry on like that, and he's obviously now in his Christmas holiday thinking of what to do to add. So, but what's going to happen is the Super Rugby will hit like a tsunami late in February, and we'll be right into it again, and he won't be able to get to his players. Then you're going to have certain teams like the Sharks trying to run the ball. The Bulls will go back to their pattern. The Kings will probably go from one humiliation to the next. And that will be a South African embarrassment. You notice the Kings, they still haven't announced a sponsor. You're not seeing any new squad members. So I just think if the Lions were the kind of players the Lions had, couldn't cope in Super Rugby, I shudder to think. So I think that's going to be a big scenario for Super Rugby.
Dan, just be careful when they start trying to tell you, hey, listen, our side scored an average of 5.7 tries in Super Rugby this year. You just have that one ready. Hey, remember you did play the Kings, though.
Yeah. Yeah, who had the Kings in their draw.
Exactly, yeah.
yeah. So I'm expecting Super Rugby will be very much like Super Rugby was in the last 2 years. The tournament is too big. The players will be tired. There'll be a lot of injuries before we get to the June window. What I do like about the June window is that it's this new thing where we're going to do internationals on one day at the same venue, with Samoa and Wales and Argentina, I think it is, and that's fantastic. I think playing lower level sides is going to be very good for Heineke. You'll be able to experiment. You'll be able to maybe untether the team.
Yeah.
And in certain of those games, have a dip, boys. Have a go. Show how good you can be. And I think that'll be very exciting and very nice that the rugby is going to go to Nelspruit, for instance. I describe the Nelspruit stadium as the great white elephant, because you see it on the way to the Kruger Park.
That's it.
That's it.
And then we come into the Rugby Championship, and then the big test starts again. Because whatever Heineke says, whatever any other Springbok coach says, we are measured against the All Blacks, and against the Wallabies to a lesser degree. The big test is how well we play against the All Blacks, and they will be the defending champions. That will be quite interesting. Is what would New Zealand have done with McCall? What would they have done with Carter and others? Because I, in fact, think New Zealand have got a big problem. Looking ahead, is New Zealand have got an aging side, a distinctly more aging side than we have. And one thing that might have happened for Heineke was so many players being drawn into the Springbok ambit, even though they didn't play, they've been near to the side, they feel a little bit more comfortable. Although New Zealand, guess what they did? They had the Maoris on tour in the Northern Hemisphere, which means their seaside and east was there. And there were times, apparently, when all the teams, all the Kiwis came together. So again there, in terms of planning, they're ahead of us. They're also ahead of us with their contracting system. So I like to think we will do better in the Rugby Championship than we did this year, especially if we alter the way we play. And and then I have to agree with Heineke, it's still a long way to Twickenham. I like the idea that you have that plan like Jake White did, and you have a long-term plan and you never lose focus of that plan. But what I'm hoping for is that we play better rugby. And when I say better rugby, use the ball. We've got fantastic wings. We've got running centres, and we need to add that to our game, because we definitely have fallen into playing a 9-10 man rugby. And why do that when it's a 15-man game? Because there's just so much more So just to close off, because I'm going like I'm on the soapbox.
No, loving it.
To see the introduction of some of those youngsters, the guys that won the Junior World Cup last year, to see some of them start to appear in the side, and then I think the other thing Heineke is going to have to start looking at is his next captain. Now, Adrian Strauss did extremely well over there. He played well. He did well as a player.
You can't go with Adrian. He's got to start Bismarck, otherwise he's sitting in the same position.
Absolutely, but your best hooker is Bismarck.
Yeah.
And I'm a great believer in that. A player has to first make the team on his merits as a player in his position. And once you've done that, then you find a captain in your side. And that is pretty much what Heineke had to do with John. He picked his side and then went for the senior player. But there were indications that Bismarck was earmarked to maybe be the captain. And he might be one of those guys that really rises to the task. The classic, put the poacher, make the poacher the gamekeeper.
Yeah, the Wayne Rooney scenario. Make Wayne Rooney the captain because he's the hothead in the team.
I don't quite compare them.
Okay, Roy Keane. Roy Keane is a good example.
Bismarck's got a much better hair.
Well, I saw him on Campo's 50th over the weekend. He's got a beard going that would make Paul Kruger look Paul Kruger jealous.
So he took November to the extreme.
Absolute extreme, yeah.
Yeah, but so that is going to be a scenario. I think, to me, Jean de Villiers was looking sore and was down on pace. He's done a fantastic job as a caretaker, but that is something that we've got to look at. The time is going to come, and I don't think Jean de Villiers is the captain and that he'll be in a physically fit state to take us all the way to 2015, and then that will bring a focus back to Schalk Burger. If Schalk Burger was going to be the captain, if he still has the hunger. Because a year out is a long time, and I have my doubts that he's going to be able to play with that absolute commitment and conviction that he used to. But I hope he does, because he is a very valuable player. So I'm looking for a year of onwards and upwards, and if I could write a slogan for the team, I would say, let's be better.
There we go. Good place to leave it. Dan, always lucky to chat to you. Have a good Christmas, have a good holiday season, and we look forward to chatting to you in 2013.
Super, guys. We must, Darren, you and I, that game of golf.
Yes. Yes.
I think it's what's going on for 15 years now. We haven't managed.
Well, let's go and get out on the golf course there. Although I'm a bit scared of that handicap of yours at the moment. That 8 is scaring me. But, I'd love to. Are you going away for the holidays, by the way? Are you just staying around?
No, we're going to be around all until Christmas. In fact, tomorrow I'm seeing all the guys because I'm going to the Investec Academy.
Okay.
To do a little talk on how to handle the media.
Good luck with that. Well,
so when you get hold of a player who says nothing, you realize I've been
Thanks, Dan. All right, bud. Well,
Thanks,
have a good one. We'll catch up with you soon, okay?
Cheers, Dan.
Cheers, Dan.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, Dan.
There we go. Dan Retief joining us.
This is Bulls Visual Radio. Darren, Simon, Kate and John. Weekdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central African Time. Bulls.co.za